Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. This is Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and way over there I've got John, our resident millennial. And sandwiched between us, right there in the center, he's right there. We've got Stan from Regular Guy Rant. Stan, could you please, for those of our listening audience who don't know who you are, could you please introduce yourself and welcome to the show?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, I'm Stan. I do, as Robert mentioned, I have my own regular guy rants. I haven't done much on there recently because I've it's been better for my blood pressure to not rant as much. But I do still enjoy getting a chance to pontificate on the world events and see what's going on. So I am also, as Robert and I discussed earlier, we are of the same age. So, young fella, you are in big trouble because you got two of us. You got two cranky old men that are going to be at you here today. So,
yeah, no, I'm ready. So I could probably run faster than you guys, so that's all right.
oh, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I can't speak for Robert. He's fit, but me, no, I'm the one that the zombies are going to get first because everyone's going faster than me.
There you go.
It's like, where's the sandbags? How hard can I board this up, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Stan, what was it that got you involved in the new media, into doing your own thing?
Well, actually, and I've told him this, Matt Christensen, that bastard. I remember when a couple of years ago, it was during the journey was the Ferguson riots, and I remember just trying to find some honest coverage of what was going on. And so I searched on YouTube, and Matt Christensen came up. So I started watching his video, and then it was just, we all know we get in that YouTube rabbit hole where it's just you start watching and watching and watching and watching. And then just after becoming a patron of his and talking with him, it just made me realize, I'm like, you know what? I can do this too. I mean, I don't have it's not something I'm looking to do for a job, but I think there is some catharsis and some to just, they used to say, write down your feelings in a book and get it all out.
All right.
Well, I decided to just throw up a little channel and just start ranting on some things that, and I do call it regular guy rants because I do consider myself to, I don't look at, a lot of people talk about the different types of, like almost isms, like conservatism and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I talk about things like your uncle would talk about, something where it's a regular person, because there is a lot of, intelligent discussion out there about stuff, but a lot of times it's not. There's like, and people like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I guarantee about half of them really don't understand half of what they're being said. Being said. Yeah. So I'm just like, look, here it is from a. I mean, I'm not dumb, but to put it blunt, from a dumb guy perspective, and here's how I see things, and I think a lot more people than we realize see it the same way. So that was my journey.
Yeah,
to this.
I think that's how a lot of people are. I guess, what's the term, John? Getting woke. Is that what they're doing? They're getting woke.
They're getting woke.
Say.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same woke they're
They have
referring
kids who
to.
keep getting on my lawn,
I wish it had a snooze button. That's what I. I don't want to be woke yet.
Or an off button.
Hey, Stan, we brought you on here. We're going to talk about a small handful of things. I have to admit, John, I got triggered this week twice. I got triggered.
Yeah.
Oh, I got triggered hard. One of the things we're going to talk about tonight is one of those triggers, and that was the Jussie Smollett situation up in Chicago. And I don't really, we can talk a little bit about what happened, but I've got the letter from the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association that they wrote in response to these charges, and it's quite an interesting read. It's
very nice. Yeah,
I got the cockles of my heart have been warmed. But the other trigger, I want to talk about McDonald's for a minute, and then we're going to talk a little bit. Donald Trump did a Michigan rally. I don't know if either one of you saw anything about that. I watched a little bit of the footage of that and watched them talk about it. But I ran across an article from CNN where they have 43 of the top "wow, that just happened" comments that he made during the rally, which some of them are kind of fun. But anyway, and then finally we want to talk about the new Green Deal, or the Green New Deal.
The Green New Deal, yeah.
Yeah, there's John found an interesting little video from some of the discussions in Washington on this. But we also pulled up the resolution to kind of get an idea of just how, how they want to spend $100 trillion of our.
How they want to break the United States to make us more green.
Ooh,
yeah,
sounds like somebody's got an opinion.
They want to push us back into the Stone Age so that we can,
yes.
I have an opinion.
Good. I like opinions.
Good,
So, hey, we got Cameron Michael out there in the audience. He said, "Good evening, humans." I don't know that I appreciate him, projecting
assuming our species.
Yeah,
that kind of label,
species.
that label thing.
It's triggering me now.
I identify, and if you don't ask me, come on. I mean, seriously?
Yeah,
seriously?
For shame.
Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, so right there. So
wait, I thought they go to Jupiter. That's right. Men go to Jupiter to get more stupider. That's what it was. That's the old saying goes.
I've never heard that.
You never heard that?
I don't know what you're calling an old statement, but
no. Oh yeah, no. It's girls go to college to get more knowledge. Men go to Jupiter to get more stupider. Yeah, never heard that on the playground in third grade.
Nowadays, college
wow.
for
Yeah, that's ancient. I don't know what you guys. I don't know.
At
least for me,
the audacity with which you use the word ancient.
It is ancient. It's from the mid '90s was when I heard it, so that's ancient. That's before the internet.
Look, I realize that
that's in the before time.
Are of age enough to have played Pong when it first came out.
Okay? Yes.
Which I had a Pong machine.
The one with the little dial, and all it played was
dial,
one game.
Exactly.
One game. There were no variations.
And Robert and I are also of the age to remember there were 4 TV channels total.
You had 4?
ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS.
Oh, PBS.
People always forgot PBS
because we used to watch Cosmos with Carl Sagan on that all the time. I love that. And Nova. Remember Nova?
Anyway, yep. But my point is, there's electricity, youngin. So it's not that we're not from, we didn't help build the pyramids. All right.
The lights were on.
The lights were on, and we had indoor plumbing. All right, so just
indoor plumbing. Wow.
Yes, we were.
Oh, there you go. That's a good question in the chat. Were your TVs black and white?
No.
Oh yeah.
Mine was color. But
you're a rich boy then.
Hold on now. In my defense, I grew. See now, the one difference between Stan and I probably is, Stan, you grew up with your parents. I grew up with my grandparents. So they made me more of a boomer than a Gen Xer, but somewhere in the middle. But my grandfather, he repaired TVs. So he worked for an appliance store that repaired TVs, so we had a decent TV.
So he was on the cutting edge.
Back when they still had those, because now you just buy a new TV.
Yeah, and we would watch our laser discs on them, the big laser discs.
Well, I mean, you also got to remember that back then, TVs, a normal TV would weigh 200 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, I mean they were not and they were screens like your computer monitor. So it wasn't like you had this 50-some inch thing. So
once upon a time, a TV was a piece of furniture.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't a television. It was a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
It was
Put stuff
built
on
in.
it.
It was often built into something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big console setup
like,
or whatever.
like the TV stands we have nowadays to put your TV on. That's what the TV sizes were. Honestly,
they were the entertainment center.
Yep, exactly.
Man.
That's where my grandmother set up the nativity scene during Christmas. She would set that up on top of the big TV. But anyway, so let's get to one of my two triggers for this week. I want to talk about this a little. So just in case neither you two didn't hear it, or John, I know you said you saw it, but you didn't read it. McDonald's had a press release, and that came out this week because, of course, they put this out. They wanted to make sure it was heard that they are no longer going to lobby against minimum wage increases. Now, normally I would applaud that, right? I would say, okay, that's awesome. This is a big company with a lot of people employed, all across the world. But McDonald's is currently automating out hundreds, if not thousands of employees worldwide as they replace cashiers. For now, that's the big thing with the order boards that they're putting in. Mm-hmm. And the fact that for the longest time, they were one of the biggest proponents of stopping the federal minimum wage increases because they did employ so many people and they wanted to keep labor costs down. They did not want to see a rate of $15 achieved.
Yeah, naturally.
But now suddenly that their labor costs are declining, people are being put out of work. Now they say, we will stop lobbying against minimum wage. People deserve a working wage is their stance now.
And then they're going to stop employing people.
Right? As they stop employing thousands of people,
yeah.
The only thing that doing that is serving them is making sure that their competition will have to pay a higher rate of wage to their employees, thus decreasing their bottom line. And it really pisses me off that this billion-dollar corporation is just so blatant about it. I hate it when they do it.
It's obviously a giant virtue signal. I mean, it's like, look how great we are as they, start pushing people out of their restaurant, out of employment.
That's the. I mean, I understand some of the arguments for minimum wage, but I worked in retail and restaurants for 20 plus years, and what a lot of people don't, and it's to what Robert's saying, don't realize is you can increase people's wages, but that's not going to change the corporation and the amount of payroll that they allow each individual store to have. Yep. Okay, you're going to pay. Okay, fine. I'm paying you $5 an hour. You're still going to have, say, $200 for payroll for your store. Well, if I'm paying $10 an hour, guess what? You're still going to have $200. So they have one of two. They have choices: reduce hours, reduce pay, reduce number of people, or raise prices. So their options are give. Essentially, and I think we all can see this already happening, you give worse service, which is going to drive people away, or you raise prices, which is going to drive people away. So, but Robert, you're absolutely right, because I'll be honest, when I go to my local McDonald's, I use the order board because 9 times out of 10, they bleep up what I tell them to order. So now I can type it in all myself, know I get it, but it's much like my local grocery store with the automated registers. They have 6 registers. They only have to pay one person.
Now, interestingly enough, I guess it was roughly 3 weeks ago, there are some smaller grocery store chains that had initiated self-checkout registers who are now taking them out because they feel that they're not offering the personalized experience that their shoppers want. Which, yes, that's very important. But the difference is, McDonald's has got a really slick fucking system with this board. They have effectively automated employees out of jobs.
I've never used it, so I've no idea.
Check it out. It is very intuitive.
I think the other thing with the grocery stores is a lot of times those self-checkout registers, It's like, please put item in the bag. Please do not put items in the bag that you haven't scanned. I'm like, it's the same. I'm like, I haven't put.
Right.
I haven't. So those are, those aren't, as cut and dry as the McDonald's order board, where it's like, here's what I want, make it for me.
Well, and I see Amazon is going to be making a push over the next 3 years, and we're going to see roughly 3,000 automated grocery stores, small grocery stores, medium or larger grocery stores, in and out, never deal with a person. You won't even have to walk through a checkout aisle. You're just in, grab your stuff, and leave. Everything's going to be tracked, and this is why, I keep talking to John. I'm like, we've got to watch what Andrew Yang is saying whenever the campaign really gets going, because he's going to be making some good points about this. And McDonald's, this kind of move by McDonald's is one of those triggers, one of those signals that this is what we're going to see. Mm-hmm. And that virtue, like John said, that virtue signaling is just phenomenal to me, because I know Walmart, I've pointed out that Wally World did that with their big advertising promotion. We're going to be raising our minimum wage at McDonald's, Walmart's all across the country, but then turn around and behind the scenes, as Stan pointed out, hours were getting cut.
Mm-hmm.
People were suddenly working less hours. The definition of part-time minimized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're paying $15 an hour, but there's 2 less registers open.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's great, you're doing that, and and then it's just irritating. Yeah, I mean that's the, but yeah, I mean I've definitely seen that with the automation. It's especially, like I said, at McDonald's, where it's like, okay, now they don't have to put 3 people at the registers at lunchtime. They only have to put 1 and then 1 to bag the stuff.
Yeah,
because everyone can use those kiosks.
See, and that's I believe that's a question that we're going to have to start asking ourselves in the next few years, because it's going to be a question that is going to be on the lips of many Americans as to who does do something about it, or is there anything that can be done about it? Because we pointed out that the citizenry asks for legislation constantly. I mean, no matter how much anybody argues about not wanting big government, everybody still turns to Papa Government to sort many things out. Right? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to fix this? And people are going to start asking this question. So that's something I think that we need to really start talking about more. Maybe it's not like imminent in the next 3 to 5 years, but if it's in the next 10 or 15, it needs to be a real discussion now.
Well, I think the best way to get people to stop asking Big Daddy government is to make them realize that there are other options, that they don't have to go immediately to federal legislation. You can go to your state legislation, you can go, you can do it voluntarily, whatever, however, you think it should be done. Like if you're a small business,
right?
You know what I mean? If you want to compete, especially with how it is now, where we have such a low unemployment rate, that we actually are having a hard time filling jobs. Right. Like there's more jobs than there are people looking for jobs. So now the businesses will start to compete, right? So the one's going to offer more pay or other benefits in order to lure some people from their competition, and so the wages go up.
Well, let me ask the two of you this question then. Is it acceptable to look to any government body, whether on the local or state or federal level, to adjudicate what businesses do as far as automation and as far as making sure people in America are staying employed?
Do you want to answer?
My say is no. I mean, it's always I mean, you look at what we are today. I mean, that you start giving the government the inch, and then it's just gonna escalate. It's never gonna be just okay. Well, we'll just do this one little thing. Well, no, they do that one little thing. That one little thing needs to do the next little thing, and the next little thing, and the next little thing.
Right.
If the business chooses, okay, fine. The market will sort itself out. Okay, if mom and pop restaurant is, only going to pay people a third of, or 2/3 of what McDonald's paying. Well, that's going to, I mean, I hate to, you hate to see that kind of thing go out, but that's going to sort itself out. People are going to go where there's more competitive, wages, and,
Yeah.
and it should be those businesses' choices. I mean, the businesses, they set their prices. They should be able to set, okay, this is what we believe that these employees are worth paying. If the employees don't like it, I'm sorry. I worked in restaurants for a long time. There is no shortage of where you could. If a person's working in a restaurant today, they can find a new one tomorrow.
Oh
They
yeah.
can find a new one the same day. So
For
it's
now.
for now, but there's also, as much as we talk about McDonald's, I prefer, like, when I go out to dine, like, I go to restaurants where I get the personalized action. I mean, that's wrong, probably the wrong kind of word, but where the server or the bartender, like, a lot of times I go to Texas Roadhouse and the bartenders know me and they get my drink, and there's that personal interaction. Because when I do go out for a meal, I mean, yeah, a fast food restaurant, a lot of times I'm not looking for that kind of a thing, but I think in a lot of the more, say, family or dining restaurants, I don't see how they could go automated, because people go for that personal, to have. I want someone to wait on me. I want someone to. So I don't. I think, yes, you're correct in some of the fast food things. We could see that, but I think overall, I don't think you're going to see it all go to that until we get to, Rosie Robot who can serve. Who can take your order and serve you.
Well, I think that'll actually, like, open the door to a competitor to those restaurants who say we're not going to automate at all.
Right.
And so they'll be seen as good for, employing people, and then you get that personal touch that you don't get with little,
Because
order
as
board.
much as there is there is something, and I think that's across all ages, about being able to talk to a person. If you need, I mean, that's always going to be a human. Mostly, I mean, some of us could be fine if I didn't talk to a person, 90% of my day. But there's always going to be that desire, especially, unfortunately, when stuff goes wrong, to talk to a person, not to push buttons. And I mean, you see it a lot on TV commercials with credit card companies, insurance companies. They're like, you can talk to a person,
Right.
So I think there is, yes, I understand that the you're triggering. But I also think that, and you mentioned, I think there is, I think businesses are also realizing all automation is really not. It's like, yeah, it's helping us, but is it helping us because people do need, want that personal interaction as well. Just my opinion.
So, John, your opinion on government being involved in it
I don't think it's necessary.
on any level,
I think
correct?
I don't. No, I think it'll sort itself out. Like I said, everyone automating heavily will open the door to competition for those who don't, and some
Right.
people would prefer that.
Now,
So it offers a market for people who prefer non-automation and that personal
Sure.
touch, like we were saying.
now
And
the
a lot of people will probably boycott if they say, "Oh, we're not employing people anymore." I mean, how many people have worked in McDonald's over the course of its existence? I mean, most people hate it, right? Hated working there, but people say, "Oh, well, they're not employing people anymore. I'm not going to go there."
but in reality, how many fucking people are going to boycott McDonald's?
I mean,
I'm sitting
probably
here
not
saying,
enough to.
I'm sitting here
Probably
saying
not enough.
I threatened that with this article, and I'm still like, oh, I could still go for a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah, no, I mean, probably not enough to have a significant impact.
Right.
But like I said, it opens the door to competition.
Well,
And that's what's
I
important.
think the food and service. It's like, okay, if it's all automated, I mean, if okay, this automated restaurant, every time I go there, it's a longer wait because people aren't taking care of my order. I got to deal with crap. That's going to affect whether you want a quarter pounder or not. If you've got to wait an extra 10, 15 minutes, I'll go to Burger King and get a Whopper. So I think a lot of it is going to come down to, now, I mean, yeah, if it comes to the point, where a robot arm is sticking out the bag for you after it puts everything together, and if it can, I think that's going to be a lot of the key is, okay, yeah, the convenience for the businesses, but how well does it work, and can it work in day-to-day operations? Yeah, McDonald's probably overall, you're right. They're the biggest. They're a giant.
Right.
So it would take a monstrous thing for that to affect them. But if across the country, it starts, if you go to McDonald's, it's going to be, even at lunchtime, an extra 5 to 10 minute wait. You can drive by and there's Wendy's King within a couple of minutes down the road.
Well, now I will say, this is, I'll make this final point on it, or food for thought for you. As more places do seek automation, because there is an inevitability to a certain level of this amongst everyone. I mean, we see it happening. I mean, look at the auto industry. They've been doing this for decades, right? Oh, yeah. Automating that industry as much as possible. From the standpoint of wages, as far as the business sorting itself out from a competitive standpoint, human versus automated, yeah, I can see that some of that will work its way out. But from the standpoint of wages, if there are 10 different fast food restaurants to work for, and 7 of those have automated processes that don't afford me jobs, there are 3 competitors for my wages versus 10 or 9 other competitors for business. So they can drive their wages down because they now have the captive audience. Wages don't have to be as much because, well, you've only got 3 places to choose from to get your job. And we're competing to see who can go the lowest. Right? That is a worst case scenario. I get it. But you know me. This is where my mind goes. This is where I see that from in the back end of everything. I see it getting a little bit sketchy for the normal worker when these kind of situations happen.
And the only thing I would say to contrast that, and then we can choose to move on, but if it's so low, and this is not to downplay it, but the fast food worker, it can also transition easily to a retail type position. Right. So yes, the restaurant, but if these wages are so low, well, they're not going to be able to draw people in. I mean, if I know that
sure, it'll impact service.
Right. So I mean, but I understand your point, to that, but in that type of business, there's ideally a ton of business, and maybe that drives people to take a serious look at those, get your CDL license, things, get maybe it drives people to go and learn how to be a plumber or do something along those lines. So
go into a trade school.
I mean,
and I think
it's like, okay, my options are crap, crud, and garbage. Well, maybe I need to look and change my life. I mean, that's what I had to do. I actually ended up being at one point unemployed for 6 months to get out of the restaurant business and to get into the job I'm in now, where I've been for 10 years, and now I actually am afforded. I work at home full time for this company.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, I mean, but it took me a long time to get there, but it took me to get that kick in my ass where I'm like, I need to stick to my ground and find something to change my life. So,
gotcha.
Well, hopefully it will sort itself out. I mean, hope is good. I always worry about, workers out there from because that's always the first direction folks go whenever they need to improve the bottom line. Yep. So keep the faith, but fuck McDonald's for the moment.
Also to address Cameron in the chat there, he says it's too easy to say everything will sort itself out. I think it's a lot easier to let the market do what it does than it is to have top-down control and try and make it sort itself out, causing more problems along the way.
But counterpoint to that, the thing about everything sorting itself out is now in my mind, at 50 years old, I look at everything sorting itself out in the chunk of time that it could actually take to sort itself out, and how much people are going to go through, how much anguish and difficulty people are going to go through in those intervening years.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is it really hasn't had a chance.
It out that sucks.
It hasn't had a chance to sort itself out because we just keep piling on more and more regulation at the federal level, which applies to every state all the time.
Then tell the American people to stop asking for shit.
That was, I think I made that point earlier, actually.
But and
he says fuck McDonald's until he wants his quarter pound.
Yeah,
and then he'll get
exactly. I bet you McDonald's later on tonight.
I have McDonald's fries, then I get over my outrage pretty quickly.
I have never taken a hypocritical oath, so there you go. All right, so the next thing I want to let's take it a little lighter. Let's have a little fun. The Orange Man was in Michigan, and he was speaking at. He was basically, it was the launch for his candidacy for 2020, right? His campaign.
Oh, he announced he's running. That's good.
Basically, yeah. And he went to Michigan because it was a pretty embattled state for him. But he went out there because he made some pretty stout promises, and he wanted to talk to them. But there were some takeaways, some comments that he made that I just, it's like, you know me, John. When he says stuff, I chuckle sometimes.
Yeah.
But of course, his first thing out of the chute was, he attacks. That's going to be.
That's a great one.
It's going to be a tagline.
Collusion delusion. I like it.
Collusion delusion.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep.
Do you think he coined that one? Did he coin that?
He might have coined it. I doubt he was the first one to say it. But I think he might be the one who, he's like, oh, I'm going to take that, and then wrote it down on his phone. He's like, oh, I'm taking it for this speech.
Right.
Bet he did.
But he does, he did go on to say he made 2 or 3 more comments about it, saying that the special counsel completed his report, found no collusion, no obstruction. He had total exoneration and complete vindication. Now that I take a little umbrage to, because of course that is not exactly what Barr put out as what the report said. Yeah, no, this doesn't clear him of anything because we just can't prove it. Whatever, but we know how it goes. He said this. He said the crazy attempt by the Democratic Party and the fake news media right back there and the deep state to overturn the results of the 2016 election have failed. Now, is that what this was? Is that basically what this whole Mueller probe has been?
Well, yeah.
Is that really what he thinks it was?
Yeah, Robert. It was Hillary's turn, and he just cut in line, like that kid on the slide. That piece of shit.
Well, do I think he believes it? But I think wholeheartedly there are a lot of people that are full on Hillary that thought that's what happened. Like they thought it would be, oh, that's it. He did this. That's it. Everything's voided. We get Hillary. She's the second place. She gets to take over now. I honestly believe they thought that.
Yeah, it's quite true.
That's not how that works, though.
That might be how it was. They really thought they were going to just open this can they were going to get the juicy worms right on the top right away.
I mean, even if they say impeach him, they really think it's like, okay, you impeach him. That doesn't mean Hillary steps into the big
right.
That means you get
Mike Pence.
That means you get the human piece of wood, Mike Pence, the guy that makes Al Gore look like he's got personality.
Yeah, Mike zap the fruit. Electrocute the fruit, Pence.
Yeah, it's so.
What was the other one? Zap, whatever. Take it in the crapper, get the zapper, Pence.
Oh my god! Where do you find this shit?
But now he did start getting nasty. Now I don't love it when he starts being insulting, just because he can. But But, he started out, he's like, and this group of major losers did not just ruthlessly attack me, my family, and everyone who questioned their lies. They tried to divide our country. I believe they did. There was a
Oh, yeah.
lot of division creating.
Oh, yeah.
However, I'm going to say that a lot of that division creating has been going on since, I would say, George W. And it's been perpetrated by both sides.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is just a culmination of some really, orange man shit.
Yeah. For me, some of the funniest is parts of this is watching how some of these, especially CNN and hall monitor Brian Stelter, and they're, as to quote Greg Gutfeld, calls him the hall monitor. How they're trying to spin it like, well, we never really said that we never took a side. We just presented the facts. Like, the bleep you did. I'm like, you all were like constantly all you could talk about. Well, no, we never take sides on anything. I'm sorry, Chris Coleman, weren't you one that said, oh, we couldn't be campaigning for Hillary more? So, but I mean, to me, the result. I mean, first of all, when it comes to I don't watch any of them. I don't care who it is. It's all just going to be whoever side it is. Oh, person B said this. Boo! I say this. Yay!
Yeah.
I mean, it's for frankly, and it's. I mean, on both sides, we know those rallies are echo chambers. They go there to hear what I mean, it's a concert. They're going there because they want to hear the greatest hits. I mean, that's what they are. And I take nothing from them. Robert, I agree with you. I wish, and I know I'm kind of in the minority with Trump. I wish he would put Twitter down for like a month.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Didn't he make it like 19 days?
I know I'm in the minority. But when he puts Twitter down, like that, when they talk about slow news stories, it's because they can't react to outrage. If he just put the Twitter down and just let his things and
just
what he's
lead
doing,
the country.
But
just
to be
lead
fair,
the
though,
country. Just I mean, Obama didn't tweet that much.
To be fair to
Trump,
Trump, though, he knows that if he tweets something out, it guarantees at least 10 hours in the media cycle.
Well,
and
yeah,
so if he wants him to talk about something, get something in the public eye,
he's a media
he just
whore.
he tweets about it and misspells something, and then CNN and MSNBC and all those will talk about it.
Is he mentally deranged? He put FA out there.
Yeah.
You guys are. I mean, I'm not fully on with 4D chess, but I think there is a definite amount where he knows, he's puppet, playing the strings because he knows they are going to react to everything. But when they are such 90-some% negative, and how much of that do you think is because of something he said on Twitter?
Right.
It's just that's my only thing. It's like they couldn't even. The Never Trumpers, when I remember the I'm sure we all know the Krastine boys, all right, Ed and Brian, I think his name.
Yeah.
Like Trump had tweeted when there was some college or place had some, where it looks like they were getting close to a cure for AIDS. Trump's like, that's great news, glad to hear. Immediate response, well, it's not like you had anything to do with it. What is your problem? I'm like, Trump could say good morning, but like, well, you have nothing to do with the sun rising. Why are you saying that? It's like, oh my God, just like these people live off of that. And it's just like, okay, black unemployment, lowest ever, women under, it's like.
It's not good enough. He's still racist and bigoted and orange,
Right.
He could personally cure cancer, and they call him homophobic for not curing AIDS. I mean, that's literally what they would.
Yeah.
So I know I'm in the minority because I know people love the Twitter, and I'm with you, Robert. I don't like the name calling.
Right, just all I ask from the man.
I don't know though, because
that's
kind of but that's a lot of the reason why people voted for him was because of that. So I don't think he would be the same.
But you can be brash and still have character. You can
but he can't. He can't be on TV every day all the time. But when he's taking a shit on Air Force One, he can tweet something out. I mean, it's a lot easier for him. And like I said, it gets him in the public eye for at least 10 hours until they come up with something else bad to say about him.
Yeah, I feel like I'm I agree with Robert, and
Yeah.
I'm also you can get your message out there without
Yeah.
necessarily attacking people, and
I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm saying for him,
but I
it's the
understand to
only
your
thing.
point. That's what
Yeah.
that's what the majority of his base wants.
Right.
That's what they want to.
I honestly believe that Trump is going to be the catalyst to the new world president. Like everything that Stan and I would have, when the presidents we were taught about, right, and that our parents and grandparents talked about, these great men that were, and and I get it. I know there was behind the scenes shit with most all of them, and stupid policy that whatever, but there was a certain modicum of gentlemen were the president was a gentleman. Right, and I don't get that from Trump, but I think he is going to be a catalyst to create. It's going to set a new standard for what we expect from a president moving forward. Like in a sense, from that standpoint, setting the bar very low. Policy-wise, he may set the bar pretty high. Who knows? But
I will say, aside from the name calling, I think a lot of the coverage that he's been given has not helped as far as how he's reacting. Because they like we talked, like they have been just completely against him and just vitriolic from the beginning. I mean, he's been the next Hitler from day one.
Well, no, he was a joke at first until he started getting,
Right.
Oh yeah, he was.
I thought he was too. I thought he was just running for kicks.
Well, the most famous clip of Ann Coulter on that saying that she thought, and I forget who, I can't think of the guy's name right now. He's on HBO.
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher's show, yeah. And she said, okay, I really think it's Donald Trump. And everyone was like, oh, what are you, crazy? No, people are sick of politicians. I mean, they're
And I think he came in at exactly the right time.
Of course, I also think, I mean, you don't see, I don't recall seeing a lot of rallies get as much coverage as Trump rallies get. I mean, they're all over. However, on the other side of it, they're doing that because they know.
Well, he stirs them. He chums the water before he goes and does these things, right? He makes sure that there's going to be a feeding frenzy out there.
He doesn't have to chum. There's the fact he's going. He knows. They know. I mean, it's a certainty. It's this symbiotic relationship they have.
Well, this one of the things that he said in the rally, and I'm concerned that it's going to become a talking point of his. And he's touched on it before, and I've told John, I don't know how familiar you are with other shows, Stan, but I've told John that it's not the Second Amendment we have to worry about. It's the First Amendment that I think that the present administration would come after before anything else, and only from the standpoint that, as we all know, coordinated efforts, manipulation, puppet on a string kind of thing that this man is capable of, that we see in so many things, this coordinated attack, this mindset that he's instilling in people about fake news and how bad the media is. And last night in Michigan at this rally, he said, we need to hold media accountable for what they say. Now, while that can be a very innocuous statement, right? Is it innocuous?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, in my mind, that is, okay, what do you consider holding them accountable? What lengths do we go to hold media accountable for what they say? Because I thought freedom of the press, as long as you weren't inciting something crazy, was freedom of the press. If you wanted to report BS news like the National Enquirer has been for decade after decade after decade, you could, with no accountability for the most part.
There's a difference between BS and defamation. and that's what he's mainly talking about, is the fact that 90% of the coverage against him is negative
But is it
from the media.
defamation?
Some of it is. I would say a lot of it. I would say he's got cases for it. Yeah.
I mean,
So
I
a lot
think
of it is.
continually calling him a confirmed racist, confirmed I mean,
Yeah.
Nazi, and and they're not saying this to be hyperbolic. They believe this. I
Right.
mean,
A lot of-
this is
yeah.
why they can never say anything good about him, because if they say something good, then they're agreeing with a racist and a Nazi.
Right.
Well,
That's and they, I mean, they say it so much they have to believe that what they're saying is fact.
well, I will argue from a devil's advocate standpoint that if they have what they perceive, what they see as evidence from him in things that he said or things that he's done, that they believe, I don't know, we want evidence, we want proof. Well, if they offer up these pieces of evidence, just because we don't agree that makes him such, that's still subjective, right? Evidence is kind of subjective in that sense. So, I mean, are they believing just blindly? Some are, yes, but aren't some of them basing their assumptions of him off of evidence that they've gathered? I mean, is that really defamation?
I don't see what evidence they have of him.
Well, I mean, we could call him
to gas them, or
well,
or
no,
being
no,
a
no,
racist.
not to take it to that extent. But I mean, I would call him a sexist. I mean, if you consider it's okay to just grab a woman by the pussy, or to say something to that extent, you're going to kind of be sexist to me.
I will argue semantics on that one. His statement was, "They let you."
Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. But
so
now,
and the other thing
And plus, I don't remember anyone coming out.
They don't say anything, which is there's a fine line there, right?
So to be fair
it,
too,
or did she just not say anything and somebody slipped her $500 afterwards?
No, and I understand. I don't disagree with the sexist part, but I also think it's fair to say that any politician that's over, I would say over 50, who's throwing stones, that they've got. I mean, look at the number of settlements and stuff that are in there. So the sexism, I can't dispute that. I mean, he's a billionaire, and I mean, he's used to not being told no by women. So are there women that would have said no? Absolutely. But he doesn't,
he doesn't bother to ask.
And
he doesn't bother to ask. So
well,
I can't dispute the sexism part. It's everything else. Him wanting to have immigration policy means he's a racist. Well, I'm sorry. First of all, Mexican's not a race.
Right.
Let's throw that first of all. But and then he's a fascist, and we're going to be in a totalitarian society. I'm like, I'm sorry, you Democrats are the ones who want totalitarian society. Like, you're the ones that want everything under the government control. What you say, what you think, what you're the ones that want all of that. So what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But I was going to say about the grabber by the pussy thing. So I have two things to say. One is that it's probably BS. He was probably just trying to talk himself up.
Sure.
Yeah, probably didn't happen. And two, no one's come out and said, oh, Trump grabbed me by the pussy, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm just now
Not
coming
that
out.
That's
never.
Down. I mean, the National Enquirer buys that
there's
shit
no
off
way.
for him. So
no one shut down fucking who was it? Michael Avenatti bringing out what's her name, the gang rape woman from Kavanaugh hearings. No one tried to shut those down.
Okay, so now
was it Avenatti? I think it was.
Oh, the Kavanaugh.
The Kavanaugh hearings. Yeah. All the people coming out, saying, "Oh, well, he used to run trains," at like 8 parties that I went to,
right?
Things like that.
Well, okay, so let's step back for just a moment, since we're all men here. I mean, if any male who has an ounce of testosterone watches Trump for an hour you could not walk away without saying he's sexist. I don't think you could. I mean, there's just too many things that he says. Like, if you look at the psychology of it, his view of women is very controlling and dominant, and there's some sexism that's built into that. John, you would know this for sure, right? There's
I think it's more insecurity on his part. And that's why he has to build himself up constantly, is because he's waiting for every minute for it to just come crumbling down.
Right, possibly. But as far as all the things that he is or is not, I think it really. Oh, there he is.
No, sorry, I was frozen, so I just turned it off.
Oh, okay.
It's just it leads to him saying some funny things. It leads to him just. Yeah, Twitter, if he walked away from it, I think it would be a major improvement for his presidency. He wouldn't have the opportunity to stick his foot in his mouth, whether he is or isn't, but to have it pointed out. It would give the media less to, say about him, and thus avoid the need for fake news, because God knows, I think, if he is this devious, how much of that fake news has he put out there? Has he planted out there and had the media run with?
Oh, God.
Right?
That's pretty tinfoil. You got your tinfoil hat on? I can't really see.
Is it really that far-fetched to believe?
Yeah. I've said this before. I love how he's both simultaneously an idiot, a complete moron, and a mastermind who's pulling all these strings from behind.
It doesn't have to just be him, John. He's got people around him, and this is not unusual in Washington.
Certainly not. But I don't think
what the media gets and how it's being spun out there initially. I
think the media puts the spin on it.
I mean, why do you think they keep pressing the fucking White House so they can control and have some idea of what's about to go out to the press, right? These bombshell things that we see that, are going at these, those exist, but a lot of this mundane shit, that's getting handed to them. This is what we're going to be releasing this, and we're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing this. Here's a little press blurb. Here's this, that, and the other. Remember during 2016 how they were accusing the DNC and the RNC of manipulating stories that were going into the press because they were feeding them sheets of stories.
They were colluding together.
Sure.
I don't think they were, because they had similar goals.
Well, yeah, but still,
people in the media wanted Hillary to be elected quite clearly.
I have a problem with,
so they're saying, here's a way that we can work together.
I have a problem with any kind of collusion between media and government. That there fucks with my whole First Amendment right.
Yeah, no, same. Because the media is supposed to be the ones critical of government, not working with them to achieve similar goals. Absolutely.
But anyway, so yeah, that's so he had fun stuff. I will say this is one that I just thought it was kind of funny because I watched him when he said it, and it was really kind of sad because it was kind of very creepy is what it came off as he said it. He said, I love it. He says, "I support the Great Lakes, always have." Because people live in the Great Lakes, maybe. Anyway, I support the Great Lakes, always have. They're beautiful. They're big. Very deep. Record deepness, right?
he just Googled. He went to the Great Lakes wiki page.
He's like,
they're lakes.
Record deepness, right?
Well, is he's. I mean, that's what. I mean, that's how he talked. I mean, when he was talking about battleships, it's the biggest, most beautiful, shiniest battleship ever created. You should see these. He's a sales brain. He has to make everything like it's the most wonderful thing ever.
Yeah, he's selling the sizzle, not the steak. Yeah.
So I understand, but I don't think there was some sort of sexual connotation.
No, not
the Great Lakes.
It wasn't
they're the wettest,
it was just the way he said
the juiciest.
No, it was the delivery. The delivery made it creepy.
Oh, it's absolutely his delivery. Absolutely, I'm sure.
But since you pointed that out, there was one more that I have to throw in here. He was talking about windmills, and he was laughing at this whole thought of doing tons of windmills, and he said you'd be doing windmills, and if it doesn't blow, you can forget about television for that night. Darling, I want to watch television. I'm sorry, the wind isn't blowing. And then he says, I know a lot about wind.
Yeah, he's an expert.
A lot about wind because you stood outside.
Sometimes it blows my toupee. It just
that's just him having to make himself seem smarter sometimes than he probably he has to. I mean, that's just.
I know a lot about wind.
I mean, the only thing
I just cut some.
Just to rewind a little bit when we talk the press, and I agree that there are things that Trump puts out there to kind of cater to the fake news, but a lot of these people run with it way too. Like when he tweeted that those automated planes should be grounded, Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo took that to mean that he wants us back in the 1950s. Yeah, and where men were men and women were women. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like it's like, yeah. So that, I mean, that's a bad ideal. Well, I understand that, but they're sitting there singing the All in the Family song because they think that him saying that this is what he actually means. It's like, no, maybe he just thinks an automated plane is not the best thing. So it's there are moments I agree where he feeds them. But there are moments where they take stuff and they are just like sitting there like
oh, of course,
like take this and go over here and completely.
Well, he kind of leaves it.
And to be honest,
he leaves himself.
It's not. It does, and I'll be honest, I get tired of it with Fox as well, where they put everything as a positive, like literally really as far as new stuff. I just watched like on Saturday night. I watched the Greg Gutman show because he just it's fun, it's lighthearted, but the rest of them, Fox News, like you're just saying, they're a giant jack off. The other ones are sitting there with the pitchforks. It's just like, but we all know if it was a Democrat, if it was Hillary, it would be the exact opposite.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Everything that Hillary would say, Fox News would be blowing, and everything she said, they would. This is the greatest, smartest thing a person's ever said. Like she said, "Good morning." So I mean, it's the yes, the press should press them, but right now, majority of the press is far too invested, and they don't report. They are, and it's fine, but they're opinion pieces. Like most of the news is opinion.
Oh yes,
now it is. Like, remember when it used to be an editorial?
Well, okay. Robert and I are about to have back in our day. Okay?
Let me ask you: Did you walk to school uphill both ways in the snow?
With no shoes, and there was
no shoes. Yeah,
snow as well. Yes, I've ranted on this before. Robert and I will know this. There was a time there was maybe an hour of news a day on TV, and there was 2 newspapers a day. And the press at that time had to pick and choose what were real stories, and they had time to research and get the facts straight.
Yeah.
This 24-hour news
cycle.
It was expected. This 24-hour news cycle is 1,000% the reason for all this shit. They need to fill 24 hours a day, so they will grab, and they have to be the first to get whatever it is out there. I hate to say back in my day, but damn it, back in my day, in our day, the news would be much more trusted because they would take time. Like, for example, the Covington thing would have never made press.
Never. Yeah.
It would never have gone anywhere. The Jussie Smollett thing, probably not either, because that's a local news story.
Yeah.
So I hate to be the old man, hang on, Walker. But the 24-hour news cycle is why this shit is why it is, because they have to fill all this time. They have to fill every minute of every day. So they have to do this because they need this.
Yeah.
They don't have time to look at a story and actually get the facts.
It's probably another big reason why they grasped onto all of Trump's tweets. Because they're readily available whenever they need. Oh, we need something.
One tweet gives them 2 to 3 hours of.
Oh yeah, they can pull people in. Here's our expert correspondent on whatever.
I think Robert's really enjoying having me here because he and understanding how things actually used to be. When they didn't. But yeah, there would be like local news, a half hour. 6 o'clock, and then another at 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
and that was so they had time to research stories. I honestly I miss that because
it's a sad thing.
It's
It really
long
is. It really is, because when they spoke, when you would watch it and they spoke, you knew you were getting facts. You did.
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
and you were getting relevant. You weren't getting, some person down in Timbuktu, said, told a joke and everyone was offended.
Right.
Well, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Well, so also let me ask you about this though, because that's the only place you're getting your news from at that time. I mean, how hard do you think it would be to hold people accountable? You can't find out if they're telling bullshit or not.
Well, but the thing was,
not as easily.
You had multiple sources to get newspapers from. A lot of people were getting their local paper and they were getting the New York Times. Anything that was major, that was national, was being reported in the local newspaper, plus your local stuff. But the New York Times was backing up. It was verifying. There was the Wall Street Journal, different other national publications that a lot of people would get or you could pick up in the grocery store. And there was verification amongst those newspapers.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we kind of see that still to this day, though.
It jived with your local news stories, too, on TV.
Let's put it this way. The reporters back then were what Acosta thinks he is.
They were journalists.
They would actually, call multiple sources, multiple people. They would be on the phones, literally going to people's houses or to their businesses and to get facts and confirm and double confirm and triple confirm because they had the time to do that. It's like, okay, you've got 4 hours, and they would be just so you believed it because, I mean, granted, we all know that there's been
industry.
Yeah, there was.
They were fully self-accountable. They held to things, and one of the things you really didn't see a lot of was retractions.
Right.
You still don't see that a lot.
Right, but
you see little editor's note at the bottom.
You see people constantly calling for it, right? But but that back then,
retraction. But the problem with the retractions is they're there, but the original news story gets 15,000 tweets. The correction gets 300.
Right.
Because we've already moved on to the next thing, or the retraction is on CNN 3:30 in the morning.
Now
we retracted. We corrected.
Midget points something out. Now he says that just means the message is well controlled.
And that's kind of the point I was trying to make. Yeah.
Okay, so he says fewer sources means further centralization. The centralization of major media is cancer. So, it wasn't that there were fewer sources back then. Reporters were still going and finding multiple sources to verify stories, and they were talking about them in the news articles, especially the ones that were, that were national news. This is where that was the time where the standard of journalism was created and was enforced by the media itself. It wasn't that it was being controlled. Yes, I understand that there's always been a certain level of control from the government, from other sources. However, there was, investigative journalism was in its heyday from I would say like the 60s through the 80s. It was big to go and uncover this major story, find isn't that when we first started seeing our first whistleblowers were back in the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. Where they were, they were investigating, they were digging deep. It wasn't just, somebody said this unidentified source said this, so we're going to run with it and we're going to preach this as gospel. It wasn't like that once upon a time.
I do agree that now, with the internet age, that yes, there is a brighter light shined on a lot of the stuff that the government does that in the past would have been, they told NSA, FBI, CIA. I agree with that. But the point here is the accountability of the information, because how many times have we seen CNN essentially using MSNBC as a source for some an unnamed source says this, right, and we've confirmed it. Well, then how many times does it turn out to be bullshit? And
that's kind of the point I was trying to make with where does the New York Times get the facts for their stories about a local thing?
But
they call their affiliate.
Hold on.
in that
what
area.
I was saying was, the national stories that were in local papers were being backed up by the national papers. The local news stories were being backed up by your local news that you would see on TV.
Yeah, but I mean, something big happened.
But here's where your free market kicked in. You didn't have cable television. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have all these sources to get your media. You had three, as we stated earlier, three broadcasting networks that were sending out media, that were news. So they had to be held accountable because their competition was so small. It was such a tight field for getting viewership, for reporting. And your local newspapers, yes, there might be 1, 2, maybe 3, but again, small competition. So they had to be the best at what they were doing, which was reporting factual news.
So getting it right was crucial.
Right.
Because if one of them fricked it up, it stuck out like a sore thumb.
Right. And everybody could jump on them.
If Spectrum News gets something wrong, well, who gives a frick?
Yeah, because there's 1,000 other sources.
There's 400 other things, Right. But that's just. I mean, again, old man rant. It's just, and the thing is now it's rush, put the story out there, and then deal with again the retractions. They happen, but it
doesn't make the same kind of coverage that the original.
Not even
story
remotely the same kind.
And a lot of people don't read the.
And that's nothing that's ever changed. If there was a big story, even back then, the New York Times, whatever, they put it on page 15. Correction, the story we put,
Right.
I mean, that's, I would like, my main point is I would like to see these, where it's like, maybe, it'll never happen, but a gentleman take 24 hours on stories. Just take 12 hours on stories. They'll never do it.
No,
12
never.
hours to, again, I go back to Covington. If they had taken a day to the original outrage and then to see, let's look at the full video, it would have never gone anywhere.
Right.
Because it's like, these weren't kids being racist. These kids weren't doing anything. Now that we see the full thing, this is nothing worth putting on.
Right.
Yeah, but he was smirking.
I mean, I understand it's not going to happen. That's just my old man wish that they would just take some time. You don't have to, to not necessarily be first, but to be right.
Right.
Yeah, you should be the first to be right.
It would be nice to walk into a room with 50 people in it and talk about a current event that each one of those people didn't get it from a different source.
Well, they at least all have the same facts.
There's 50. You can find so many different sources for one thing. It's kind of sad.
I mean, right now they're literally like dart,
right.
dart. Oh, look, one almost hit the dartboard. Okay, we got one right. It's just. I mean, it's just the throwing so much stuff out there, it's more dumb luck that they're going to get something right as opposed to actual journalism that they'll get something.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
That's what I feel like.
I think that one that they did get right, and you mentioned this a couple of minutes ago, and this was my other trigger this week. Do we all remember where we were when we got to see Chicago exhibit some of the great corruption from back in the major organized crime days earlier this week when Jussie Smollett's case was...
Robert and I were not alive during...
right now, we weren't there.
Let's just throw that right out the window. Okay?
But Jussie Smollett, all the charges dropped. Gone. Bye. See ya. Gone.
Listen, Robert, just because the charges were dropped does not mean that Jussie Smollett did not collude with Russia.
That is true. But all the charges
There's
were
no
dropped.
Evidence he didn't.
No, he didn't collude with Russia. He's a victim.
And this,
he's a victim of collusion with Russia.
And I shit you not, the very first thing that jumped to my mind was, this is Chicago. I'm thinking Chicago, New York, all of these, just these major, organized crime situations that just get swept under the rug, that just suddenly everybody just goes dark. Nobody knows anything about it. The case just goes away. The evidence all disappeared. Blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what happened here, right? They're just like, that was the first thing that was said was, all the charges are dropped and nobody can talk about it because it's all sealed. Nobody can. The fucking police were standing there saying, "Oh, you're going to have to talk to his attorneys, this, that, and the other thing." It was out fucking outrageous. Pardon my French, but it's true. Outrageous that they just dropped it, and then had the audacity to let us know that he sacrificed $10,000 bond.
You know what's funny
he was
about
still
that?
Fucking innocent.
Speaking of journalism, he did give up the $10,000 bond. The BuzzFeed article that I read about it said that he gave up $100,000 bond.
Well, it was supposed. I thought he was being held on $1 million, which would have been $100,000.
Well, then why would he have only paid 10? Because that's what I was figuring was his bail was $100,000.
Right.
And so they took that to mean that that's what he paid, as opposed to he paid 10%.
Maybe.
Like you do.
Because I couldn't remember. I would have had to go back and check, and I'm lazy if it was $1 million.
Because then I believe it was the Daily Wire who said it was 10,000, and then it was BuzzFeed that said it was 100,000. So we had two different numbers there.
Right.
And but they could have been construed either way based on what his bail was set to.
Well, ultimately, though, this didn't sit well with some people. Much like myself, right? One of the people it did not sit well was the Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association, very specifically Lee Rupas, the president. And I want to read you a little bit of what he had to say about this. The Illinois Prosecutors Bar Association serves as the voice for nearly 1,000 frontline prosecutors across the state who work tirelessly towards the pursuit of justice. The events of the past few days regarding the Cook County State's attorney's handling of the Jussie Smollett case is not condoned by the IPBA, nor is it representative of the honest, ethical work prosecutors provide to the citizens of the state of Illinois on a daily basis. The manner in which this case was dismissed was abnormal and unfamiliar to those who practice law in criminal courthouses across the state. Prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges alike do not recognize the arrangement Mr. Smollett received. Even more problematic, the state's attorney and her representatives have fundamentally misled the public on the law and circumstances surrounding the dismissal. The public has the right to know the truth, and we set out to do that. By God, he's taken all he can take, and he can't stand no more.
I liked all of that except for the word problem.
Problematic is that's my trigger word. I cringe so much. Yeah, I cringe every time I hear problematic.
To add to this, it looks like the city is also the city's legal department is ordering him to pay $100 over the cost of the investigation, Mr. Smollett.
That would be fun for an innocent man, right?
And you know something else I heard? I'm like, this seems really stupid. Is there was talk that Jussie was going to sue the city,
yes,
and the police department, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, wouldn't, and again, not a legal representation. As I stated, I'm a dumb guy, but why would you want to enact legal action, Jussie? Because I would imagine that would require the file to be unsealed to prove that you were framed or wrongly prosecuted. Because that seems to me to be... Please, Jussie, you moron.
Well, that's just it. He's proven throughout this entire thing that he did not necessarily think this through completely. Right?
Well, so my prediction is going to be that he's not going to do that. I think he said he was going to, so that he could kind of maintain innocence, or at least the delusion of innocence. Well, I think he's going to drop it, and we're not going to hear much more about it after this point.
I believe that I believe that there is not going to be a dismissal of the charges. And that being the reason being,
that would be nice.
Listen to this. When an elected state's attorney recuses herself from a prosecution, Illinois law provides that the court shall appoint a special prosecutor. See, blah, blah, blah. Typically, the special prosecutor is a neighboring state's attorney, the attorney general, or the state appellate prosecutor. Here, the state's attorney kept the case within her office and thus never actually recused herself as a matter of law. Right there, the case has been dirtied. Now we get to redo. Additionally, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office falsely informed the public that the uncontested sealing of the criminal court case was mandatory under Illinois law. This statement is not accurate. To the extent the case was even eligible for an immediate seal, that action was discretionary, not mandatory, and only upon the proper filing of a petition to seal, see blah blah blah. For seals not subject to section blah blah blah, the process employed in this case by the state's attorney effectively denied law enforcement agencies of legally required notice and the legal opportunity to object to the sealing of the file. The state's attorney not only declined to fight the sealing of this case in court, but then provided false information to the public regarding it. Never followed proper procedure in the case in how it was handled to have it dismissed, or having herself recused from the case. The case was flawed before it ever had a chance to be dismissed and was screwed.
Interesting. So would that lead to like a mistrial if they tried to get him, or double jeopardy maybe?
I don't know if this
couldn't the judge throughout the
I would think so.
The arrangement based on all this stuff, because it seems like
so.
It's completely below board in every way, shape, and form.
Right.
Judge, it seems like a judge could say, no, can't.
And the reason why, there was a reason why they wanted this sealed. There is a reason that would expose the corruption that caused the dismissal of the charges, is my guess.
Well, didn't the police say like the file just on this was like 8 inches thick?
Yes, there's a lot going on there.
It's like how could it be? I'm like, and it's just, that's it. No, nothing to see here. I mean, to me, this is one of these where the press just ran with it. Okay, let's start off. So they were wearing ski masks and MAGA hats. How is that?
And they just happen to have a noose and some bleach with them.
Jussie Smollett, a Hollywood actor, is walking through the streets of Chicago at 1 a.m. by himself
to a subway on one of the coldest days of the year.
It depends on where in Chicago you're talking about as well.
I'm sorry.
It could have just been down from the building, right? But he knew
it could have been down the street.
He knew where the cameras were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just all of this, just to the state. And I know it was white guys. And then his lawyer on Good Morning America is like, well, we've shown that the Nigerians once did use whiteface.
I saw that picture.
The Joker video? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
I saw a picture of it.
I'm sorry, if you think that would pass as white, you're a bigger buffoon than I already think you are.
Right? He would have said they was white. I mean, like white, like paint white, right? And who the fuck wears paint under a ski mask?
Yeah, I it's just.
Come on,
although
Jussie.
I have to say, in my black pill, I never really expected him to. Let me put it this way: I did not expect this in any way, shape, or form, but I never expected him to really have any repercussions. Because, as much as they like to talk about privilege, the biggest privilege is wealth privilege, and that's what this is. This is
right.
I know people, and I have Obama friends, and they're just going to fix things.
And this is something that's pointed out. The appearance of impropriety here is compounded, and this was what was the real kicker for me, is compounded by the fact that this case was not on the regularly scheduled court call. They called an emergency case to get this dismissed. The public notice or opportunity to view the proceedings, and the dismissal was done abruptly at what has been called an emergency hearing. To date, the nature of the purported emergency has not been publicly disclosed. The sealing of a court case immediately following a hearing where there was no reasonable notice or opportunity for the public to attend is a matter of grave public concern and undermines the very foundation of our public court system. Lastly, the state's attorney has claimed this arrangement is available to all defendants and not a new or unusual practice. There has even been an implication it was done in accordance with a statutory diversion program. These statements are plainly misleading and accurate. This action was highly unusual, not a statutory diversion program, and not in accordance with well-accepted practices of state attorneys' initiated diversionary programs. Even linked it in his letter. The IPBA supports diversion programs and recognizes the many benefits they provide to the community, the defendant, and to the prosecuting agency. Central to any diversion program, however, is that the defendant must accept responsibility. To be clear here, this simply was not a deferred prosecution. So,
when did that come out?
He put this out. Was it yesterday or the day before?
Okay,
yesterday.
so it's relatively.
Yes, he ripped this one out.
It's fresh.
He's fucking done.
In legal terms, this is like a minute old. In legally, this is seconds old in legal terms because we know this shit goes on forever. I just, my thing was, could you imagine? I mean, if this was for them to say, well, this is standard practice, really? I don't think that if it was
Joe Blow, poor guy, homeless.
That there would have been any, and especially when you hear the police were like, no, we found out the moment you all found out when this was announced in a press conference. Yeah. That's when we found out. I mean, I'm sorry, when the one of the liberal hubbub and a Democrat mayor was as pissed as this guy was, I'm sorry. You've gone too far. This is for them has gone too far, and especially again, I don't know if either of you saw Matt's video about the lawyer thing today with his lawyer.
Yeah, I watched that earlier today,
and it was staggering. Where she's like, he was all, we need to prosecute. Now he's like, she's like, he's been victimized more by the press than he was during this attack.
The press.
Yes, he wanted the attention.
He got what he wanted.
And then she's, they don't want the Nigerian brothers prosecuted. Oh, so if this was Bubba and Billy Joe and all this happened, you would be like, you know what? I don't want them prosecuted. If this truly was two white guys, you'd be like, no, let's just live and let live. Bullshit. Okay? Bullshit. You don't want them prosecuted because you know damn well that means they would have public statements in court on the record about his involvement in it. Yeah. And he doesn't want any of that shit. Well, that's why they don't want to prosecute.
The chat is funny. Midget says this is going to unite a lot of working class normies against a lot of things. They really overplayed their hands with this one. Grievance politics will be rejected by normies in favor of class recognition. And that is true. It's interesting. I'm going to posit that was Midget in the chat there.
Yeah, nice point, sir. You're 100% correct.
He's our resident.
Sir, sorry, didn't mean to assume your gender.
I'm gonna put this out there. I think it's kind of the irony of it. Jussie Smollett is exhibiting what you could only call white privilege in getting these cases discharged, right? But
no, this is how
desire to have so much press. Is the actual downfall of his executing his white privilege.
His thought was, I say MAGA, everyone will buy it. There'll be no way to prove it.
I'm black.
And that's it. I just have to say MAGA. And that's it. And I hate to keep, but you would think after Kavanaugh, after Covington, you would think the press would be like, we need to look at something a little bit critically. Robin Roberts, so how are you? Are you okay? I realize I'm a gay woman, but and you're a gay man, but, as Robert.
When we turn 40.
Do you need a little of that? I mean, it's just, they just couldn't, and then him, I'm a modern Tupac.
Oh yeah, what a piece of shit!
You didn't beat anybody up with your little scrawny arm. You saw those two guys. I'm like, I'm sorry, Jussie. you ain't beating those guys up any way, shape, or
No,
form.
never.
Okay, you're gonna get your. And if those two are beating you, you're not just gonna have a little cut under your eye there,
Mm.
Junior.
And you
No,
sure
they're
still would
taking
have
your
walked
sandwich,
off
too.
with your sandwich still intact.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
taking
you
your
wouldn't have had
sandwich.
your sandwich.
Bitch, I'd have taken that
Hell
motherfucker's
yeah.
sandwich if I was kicking his ass.
They would have taken
take
his
the
sandwich, his
sandwich out of
wallet,
his
his
hand
shoes,
first.
all that.
Take the damn sandwich.
Take the sandwich
Yeah,
first so you don't
yeah.
kick the shit out of that when you're beating
I
the
have
fuck
to
out of
admit,
him.
I mean, yeah, the whole thing. I mean, this is honestly, even for today's world, one of the most bizarre.
Mm.
Just what the fuck things I have seen in a long. Like, what is going on?
But the beauty of it is how much corruption is about to be exposed.
Oh yeah,
Like they have already, many people are already saying she is going to be fucking disbarred. She is going to lose her fucking job. She's going to lose it all. And it's understandable. Somebody made a deal. There's something, but there's some trigger there. There's something that prompted them to say, we can get this dropped right the fuck now. And it was maybe the police handled some of the evidence bad. Maybe they coerced something from the two guys. I don't know what it is, but they had something that they could use. Unless it was a payoff. Unless it was a payoff, and then that's what I want to see.
Okay, to share your tinfoil hat, because I feel like we're both. I found it also really odd that this happened like within 24 hours of one of his legal team being arrested in conjunction with Avenatti.
I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, the CNN.
Wow.
He was a CNN contributor, and he's the one that talked about him being gangbanged by the press.
Oh yeah, okay,
he
yeah.
was named by the Washington
That sounds kind of
Post
fun, actually.
as involved with Avenatti in some of those schemes. So I'm thinking, like, this guy was representing Smollett, and then suddenly this all happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to believe in coincidence, to say it's a coincidence, but that just I mean, again, I'm probably going way out on a limb here, but that seemed too odd to me, and especially then, the woman who was interviewed this morning, like, I've never seen that. I mean, not that I paid much attention to his legal team, but I don't know who that woman was, but I don't know. To me, yes, you say about police, but the police seem genuinely pissed. Like they're like, we have a solid case. Like they were confident they had good evidence. So I don't know that they would be pushing it that much if they were like,
yes.
Well, who was it that had that awesome press conference? I don't think it was the chief. It was some other.
It was the mayor and the chief of police.
The superintendent, I think it was.
Yeah, they had a great.
Yeah, and he was like, "We're gonna we got this motherfucker. Like we're
Yeah, but
that's how much grace he was to the city of Chicago, all this kind of stuff. So when he was pissed then, imagine now saying, "Okay, we're gonna let him go." But he's gonna be pissed.
But you know how it is. I mean, and I hate to reference watching TV shows and things like this, but it's very easy for the police to be that gung-ho and then make a mistake in somehow how they gather the evidence or how they bring the facts forward, and they screwed up, and it's the linchpin that's going to be what gets the reasonable doubt in the court case. And that's that might have been the thing, but I hope it was a payoff.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this was so high profile. I feel like they had to have. Let me put it this way. I want to believe they were smart and crossed the T's and dotted the I's and had everything there, and that this is literally a legal. Because even the prosecutor was like, "No, I don't believe he's innocent."
Yeah,
I and so I feel like this was almost like forced on him from above. Is what it seems like.
Well, that's why I'm hoping it was a payoff. I'm hoping that there was some dirty money there that we can find and
it is Chicago, and
because
notoriously
because it was the dumbest move ever is to take a high profile case and suddenly have all the charges go away, and then you pretend like it can now be shut down, and nobody wants to know what the fuck. What the fuck?
You've got essentially a raging volcano, and you're just like, no, let's just put a cap.
Right? Put a
You know,
garbage can lid on top of it.
It's almost like there's the meme with Leslie Nielsen where there's buildings exploding. Move along, nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Nothing to see
going
here.
on. Nothing to
absolutely.
see. Or Officer Bar Brady, move along, looking at nothing to see.
Nothing to see here.
Everything, I figured Officer Bar Brady be one that you would know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But
But that's what they literally and they thought. Oh, okay. We'll just walk along. Nothing to see here. Okay, they said something. No, there's plenty to see.
I was like, how this
told
can't
us there was
sit.
plenty to see.
This cannot fucking sit. It's impossible. Especially, I mean, come on. This is happening in Chicago, and nobody's going to go, I mean, it's not like you haven't been known for corruption on an organized crime level for decades. Almost a century, maybe? A century or more?
And the utopia that Chicago is, yes.
Right.
Oh, God, yeah.
Right? That diverse melting pot that it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, because it's notoriously corrupt, and they kind of showed their hand, a little bit more than they used to, at least.
Yep.
But I mean, everyone already knew it was a corrupt city.
But now they're like, but we weren't corrupt this time. Damn it, we need to, we demand. Like, okay, well, I mean, if this is this is one they want to go to, I'm fine with it because, of course, I love, someone was talking about this in the hall monitor, Brian Stelzer. Oh, really? So you were there? You know what happened? I'm sorry, aren't you the people that have been screaming Russian collusion for the last 2 years? Were you there? Do you know what happened, Brian?
No. You don't understand. Those they can't apply to them, right? Those rules don't apply to them. It only applies to their critics.
No,
their critics.
I don't have
That's
to
it.
be there. I have logic, and everything that he has said has been a lie on top of a lie. Okay, I know those are two guys. Oh, really? Those are two Nigerians. Okay, not white guys. Okay, and they're by the way, they're your friends.
Yeah,
you paid. You
paid with a personal check, like an idiot.
I have to say,
with a personal check.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
It almost makes me cry.
I don't know if you saw in the Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA. He was I mean, he wasn't saying it, but he's like, man, you don't pay for things with a check, man. You don't. Right? You pay cash.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and Shaq is cracking up, and of course, then the white guy's like, oh god.
Oh no!
Can't
I
you
can't
just
say
imagine
anything.
Jussie Smollett in a fucking grocery store holding up the fucking line? Hold on, I got to fill out a check.
Yeah, hold on.
We better check doing this thing.
Yeah, I got to write a check.
But yeah,
you gotta lick the thumb.
What you've said about the the state bar bar and all that. Okay, that gives me, because it feels like they're like, no, we ain't just gonna settle for this shit.
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
You're making okay. We make ourselves look like fools enough, but now you're making us look like fools on a truly international level.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And you can't have that. It's like we can look like fools on WGN and the local news, but you're making us look like fools now on the BBC, on everywhere, and that's the line they're drawing.
And drops a fucking letter, a bell that cannot be unrung.
Nope.
You can't unring
it's gonna be
that
good.
shit. Yeah. But we'll see how it turns out. I can't wait. So this next week should provide some interesting fodder,
that's great.
some tinder for this
hear.
fire. But the other thing that we wanted to talk about was this Green New Deal that's coming out that they're talking about, that they're wanting to put through, right? We've touched on it a little bit because we know it's just, I mean, she's young. This was kind of AOC's thing, right? She's young and she's wanting to be aggressive and she's wanting to make some moves. She doesn't understand what the impact of for fucking ever means. In her limited scope, her 27 years or whatever it is.
No, she's about to be 30.
Is she that old?
She's slightly older. She's slightly older than me by like 3 months or something like that. Like
is her
beard maybe a little bit more
thick?
No, her beard isn't quite as thick, but her teeth are.
And her eyes.
And her eyes are thicker.
Yeah, she uses a paintbrush for a toothbrush.
That's right.
So John, you you brought a video. You put a video out here for us that you thought was kind of funny. Am I correct that you were finding
it's
humor?
fucking hilarious.
Is this her getting her tits up in a bunch about her
No.
shot down 0 to 57 in every
that was hilarious,
and not voting at all for it?
Yeah, when it was her fault, or she claims it was her fault that they voted present instead of yes.
Yeah, that's what she wanted them to vote. Yeah.
Yeah, but then she's mad about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those, I didn't want you to do it anyway. Sounds like one of those kind of deals.
Well, I don't want to share my cookies.
I don't want you to vote for that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You're all old.
Do we want to spend a few minutes and listen to a little bit of what this fella has to say? I don't. It depends. Will you be able to see it, John?
I'll get the 20-second delay on the stream.
All right. What about you, Stan? Do you have us on are you watching us, or you have it on a feed, or do I need to try and share my screen? Would that be easier?
Well, if I can hear it here, I can. I mean, the video. I've got it.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think you have to hear it be able to hear it on the show, right? Unless I share it on the screen. I don't know. Can you hear it when I share it on the screen, John? Do you remember?
Not really. It's like really, really, really low. It's weird. I think you got some setting or something that's a real low for Discord.
Why
maybe
do you
I don't
always
know.
blame you project everything. You're always the victim. It's always something else.
Right.
They just
Right.
assume,
well,
it's
it
like,
can't possibly be my fault.
Grandpa, technology.
Technology is fine. It's got to be every other technology out there that's screwed up.
Right.
Exactly.
It's everyone else's fault.
Right.
And never mind. You guys
I
don't
have
get
the best Wi-Fi. I know a lot about Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. I know more about Wi-Fi than the Wi-Fi people.
Let me.
They're literally boomers. Yeah, that's true. Not you guys. We're talking about politicians, obviously.
Hey, look, I complimented you, midget beast.
No. They're not. He's not talking about you guys.
Don't go using my
prevalent quality in American political.
Yeah, midget beast's a cool guy. He's our resident wrench. The only one that we have.
All right. Well, there's my screen. I'll play this for you and see what you think, and
all right.
see if you can hear it. See if you can watch it. We'll see a little bit of this. I'll probably pause and laugh or something if it's a necessary.
Oh, it's good.
Thing.
Oh, it's good.
Mr. President, fear has become an all too prevalent quality in American political discourse.
Yeah, it's like really, really low.
Screen share
is
sucks.
unavoidable. When debating the substance of the resolution before this body today.
Because I can't
that is
get any more
climate
volume.
change, socialism, and the Green New Deal. On entering this debate, I have a little fear in my heart as well. But, Mr. President, my fear at this moment may be just a little different than that of some of my colleagues. Unlike some of my colleagues, I'm not immediately afraid of what carbon emissions unaddressed might do to our environment.
There's nobody in there with him.
Or our civilization, or our
Well,
planet
they're not
in
behind
the
him.
next few years. Unlike others, I'm not immediately afraid of what the Green New Deal would do to our economy and our government. After all, this isn't going to pass. Not today, not anytime soon, certainly. Rather, after reading the Green New Deal, I'm mostly afraid of not being able to get through this speech with a straight face. For Mr. President, I rise today to consider the Green New Deal with the seriousness it deserves. This is, of course, a picture of former President Ronald Reagan, naturally firing a machine gun while riding on the back of a dinosaur. You'll notice a couple of important features here. First of all, the rocket launcher strapped to President Reagan's back, and then the stirring, unmistakable patriotism of the Velociraptor holding up a tattered American flag, a symbol of all it means to be an American. Now, critics might quibble with this depiction of the climactic battle of the Cold War, because while awesome, in real life there was no climactic battle. There was no battle with or without velociraptors. The Cold War, as we all know, was won without firing a shot. But that quibble actually serves our purposes here today, Mr. President, because this image has as much to do with overcoming communism in the 20th century as the Green New Deal has to do with overcoming climate change in the 21st. The aspirations of the proposal have been called radical. They've been called extreme. But mostly, they're ridiculous. There isn't a single serious idea here, not one. To illustrate, let me highlight two of the most prominent goals produced by the plan's authors. Goal number one, the Green New Deal calls essentially for the elimination of airplanes. Now, this might seem merely ambitious for politicians who represent the densely populated northeastern United States. But how is it supposed to work for our fellow citizens who don't live somewhere between Washington, D.C. and Boston? In a future without air travel, how are we supposed to get around the vast expanses of, say,
Yeah, this is a good one.
Alaska during the winter? Well, I'll tell you how. Tauntauns, Mr. President. This is a beloved species of reptomammals, native to the ice planet of Hoth. Now, while perhaps not as efficient
I will take a tauntaun.
as
absolutely.
airplanes or as snowmobiles, these hairy bipedal species
I'm watching loving her. I love watching her face.
Unique benefits. Not only are tauntauns carbon neutral, but according to a report a long time ago and issued far, far away, they may even be fully recyclable and usable for their warmth, especially on a cold night. What about Hawaii? 2,000 miles out into the Pacific.
My favorite part is how knowledgeable he is
Green
about
New
these
Deal's
things he's
effective
putting up.
airplane prohibition.
And speaks it for the layman.
They're supposed to get to and from.
And not only that,
mainland.
but with a completely straight face
How
the
are they supposed
entire
to
time.
maintain that significant portion of their economy that's based on tourism. At that distance, swimming would, of course, be out of the question. And jet skis are notorious gas guzzlers. No, all residents of Hawaii would be left with is this.
Yes.
This is a picture of Aquaman, a superhero from the undersea kingdom of Atlantis, and but notably here, a founding member of the Super Friends. I draw your attention, Mr. President, to the 20-foot impressive seahorse he's riding. Under the Green New Deal, this is probably Hawaii's best
The
bet.
Super Friends.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm the first to admit that a massive fleet of giant, highly trained seahorses would be cool. It would be really, really awesome. But we have to consider a few things. We have no idea about scalability or domestic capacity in this sector. The last thing we want is to ban all airplanes and only then find out that China or Russia may have already established strategic hippocampus programs designed to cut the United States out of the global market. Mr. President, we must not allow and cannot tolerate a giant seahorse gap.
A giant
Rule number
seahorse
2.
gap.
And
The Green New Deal anticipates the elimination of all cows. Talking points released by the sponsors of the resolution the day it was introduced cited the goal of, quote, fully getting rid of, and I'll paraphrase a little bit here, flatulating cows. Now, Mr. President, I share their concern. But honestly, I think you've got to remember that if they think the cows smell bad, just wait till they get a whiff of the seahorses. But back to the cattle. I've got a chart to illustrate this trend. As you can see, Mr. President, on the left, these little cows
it's funny about the
represent
cows.
the bovine population of America today. On the right is the future population under the Green New Deal. We would go from about
we don't have to watch the
94
whole thing,
million
but
cows to 0 cows.
it's pretty awesome.
No more milk, no more cheese, no more steak, no more hamburgers. Over the state work period last week,
We're almost
I
to the
visited
home
some
stretch.
farms to find out for myself what Utah's own bovine community might think of
He
the
talked to
Green New
cows.
Deal.
I love it.
Every cow I spoke to said the same thing. Boo.
This guy's an amazing troll.
He said boo.
The authors of this proposal will protest that these
Look at her
goals
face.
are
Look at
not
her
actually
face.
part of the Green New Deal, but were merely included in
Yeah.
supporting documents, accidentally sent out by the office of the lead sponsor in the House of
She
Representatives.
is doing a
But, Mr.
good
President,
job at trying to
this
keep it
only
straight.
makes my
It
point
really
Yeah.
is.
The supporters of the Green New Deal want Americans
Oh, yeah.
to trust them, to reorganize our entire society, our entire economy, to restructure our very way of life, when they couldn't even figure out how to send out the right press release. The Green New Deal is not a serious policy document because it's not a policy document at all. It is, in fact, an aesthetic one. The resolution is not an agenda of solutions. It's a token of elite tribal identity, and endorsing it a public act of piety for the chic and woke. And on those
Nice.
embarrassing terms, it is already a resounding success. As Speaker Pelosi herself put it, quote, the green dream, or whatever they call it, nobody knows what it is, but they're for it, right? Right. Critics will no doubt chastise me for not taking climate change seriously. But please, Mr. President, nothing could be further from the truth. No Utahn needs to hear pious lectures about the gravity of climate change from politicians from other states. For it was only in 2016, as viewers of the Sci-Fi Network will well remember, when climate change hit home in Utah, when our own state was struck not simply by a tornado, Mr. President, but by a tornado with sharks in it.
Sharks.
These images are from the indispensable documentary film Sharknado 4.
Wow.
They captured
Yeah, the
precise
Sharknadoes.
moment
Yeah.
when
Oh
one of
my
the
God.
tornado sharks crashed through the window.
Yeah, he goes hard,
of
man.
Utah's
Okay,
governor,
she's cracking
Gary
up now.
Yeah.
Now she's about to.
a true Utah hero.
She's trying
and a fine
desperately.
American.
Oh my God.
Governor Herbert, who, by the way, is an incredible athlete and an expert tennis player. Governor
She's
Herbert
trying. She's looking
bravely
at her feet, looking at her
fought the
phone, trying
animal
to
off with the
do
tennis
anything she
racket
can.
that he keeps by his desk, precisely for occasions such as this. So let's be really clear, Mr. President. Climate change is no joke, but the Green New Deal is a joke. It is the legislative equivalent of Austin Powers' Dr. Evil, demanding sharks with frickin' lasers on their heads. The Green New Deal is not the solution to climate change. It's not even part of the solution. In fact, it's part of the problem. The solution to climate change won't be found in political posturing or virtue signaling like this. It won't be found in the federal government at all. You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world.
Oh, look, he got babies.
Mr. President, this is the real solution to climate change. Babies. Climate change is an engineering problem. Not social engineering, but the real kind. It's a challenge of creativity, ingenuity, and most of all, of technological innovation. And problems of human imagination are not solved by more laws. They're solved by more humans. More people mean bigger markets for more innovation. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing
Okay, now I've reached the point where I understand where he's going.
Yeah.
And he doesn't change the picture again. Thoughts?
It's fucking hilarious. That's what I thought.
Well, I gotta say, honestly, my thought is he has more, shall I say, documents or pages in this presentation than the Green New Deal has in its entire. It's like 5 pages.
He's done more research too.
He did a lot more research, and I mean, again, I when this stuff first came out, and Ocasio-Cortez, when people were slamming it, I'm the boss. At least I'm trying to come up with ideas. And I remember on the Greg Gutfeld show, Kat Timpf was like, "Really? You're the boss?" Because she's like, "Fine. How about everyone fly on unicorns and we just make fairy dust so the farts go away." She's like, and then something else. She's like, "There, I just came up with 3 equally ideas that won't work. Does that mean I'm the triple boss now?"
That's good.
And
I like that.
it is a staggering, just display of, forget the. Okay, so you want to get rid of planes? So what? You're gonna make an Amtrak train across the Pacific Ocean? You genius! Okay, he didn't even talk about the fact that she wants every building in the United States refitted, for solar power. Okay, I'm sorry. You talk about low. Okay, first of all, none of them can afford any of this shit. Okay, you get rid of cows. Some of the easiest and cheapest food stuff is like ground beef, and that they can buy. So you're going to get rid of that for those low income families as well. It's just it's literally, this is the kind of plan that, and I will never confirm or deny if I ever did, the funky, smoky thing. This is the kind of plan that people in college sitting around passing a joint come up with. Okay, that is as sensible as a plan as me and my friends, drunk and stoned, would have come up. It would be great.
Right.
Yeah.
Pterodactyls for everybody. I mean, that
would be pretty sweet, to be fair.
I understand, but you got as much chance of that as you do of this. It's just, and the problem, and the biggest problem now. Ocasio-Cortez, I give her some credit. I mean, the reason she won in the district to begin with is because her opponent didn't leave his office. Okay, he gave no shits. She went out there, she worked. Granted, she only won the primary by a very small margin.
Yeah,
and then when you're a Democrat in New York City, the Republicans never gonna. That's just a fact.
Yeah,
but so I give her credit for that. But she is the only. You ever notice when she gets on that rage when the eyes get as big as her breasts? It's when someone dares to tell her no or challenge her. She cannot handle it. She never goes on any news places that are going to challenge her. She goes to colleges where it's a bunch of SEALs, or that's a genius. Oh, we're on a diet. Because someone said that. Oh, we don't have to do. I mean, I'm dead right now. Or thank you, Alexandria. So
yeah.
Walk on one show where you're going to be asked a challenging question. I mean, I remember when she talked about the $10 million tax, and she's talking to Anderson Cooper, who has a $10 million a year contract with CNN, and she's like, thinking she's telling him, "I'm going to tax you at 70%." And he's like, "So how would that work again?"
Yeah,
you fucking batshit crazy,
right?
I am, and again, you want to talk about why I'm really. The Amazon thing, she cost her district 25,000 jobs, and you want to know the genius of this woman is she thinks that the tax break that they were going to be given is money just sitting in some treasure chest somewhere that can just be applied to somewhere else. and you went to school for economics, and you don't know how this works. I'm a moron, and I know how this works.
Right.
All right, I just, when you mentioned AOC, yes, she is just. I honestly believe she will be 100%. She will not get reelected because in the next election, it's the presidency, which means there's going to be a much bigger turnout, and there's going to be a whole shitload of people who lost potential jobs, lost potential income, because that deal did not just affect people that would have gotten jobs. Think of all the businesses in that area that lost tons of money, all the hotels for people that would have been traveling there. There is a far-reaching thing. And then she puts this out there like some genius solution. Trains everywhere. And I'm sorry, you're taking freaking Ubers and instead of going to the train, which is a block away from your office, and taking Ubers, which are giant freaking SUVs, but you're going to lecture us on, well, you need to get an electric car. I'm sorry, sweetheart. What are you riding in right now? You stupid freaking moron. Trying to be right.
Now, say what you will about her. But
which I just did.
But if you went down to your local adult bookstore and she was on the other side of the glory hole, you wouldn't complain.
Well, yeah, because then she would be opening her mouth.
She technically she would.
Okay, but there would be no words coming out. Okay, and I think Robert can appreciate this. I'm at the point in my life where it's like, okay, you're great to look at, but at some point, there's going to be words coming out of that pie hole. Okay, and if the words coming out of your pie hole, guess what? Then the rest of that shit, pass.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry. You
pillow
look
talk
great,
is important, right?
But eventually you're going to speak, okay? And I'm like, I can't deal with that.
Well, but to your point about her being reelected, I think she had a chance to before. I don't think she does now. I think she's burning way too brightly, way too quickly.
But that's why she's trying to do something. She's trying to put something big and major through as quick as she can to secure
she's a freshman in the House, though. She needs to kind of lay low, vote on some things.
I agree.
Maybe give her opinions on things.
But then you're asking her to play the game. Then you're asking her to do business as usual in Washington. And
she's not going to get reelected.
She can't do business as usual. She's got to come out hard and heavy. That's what new young politics needs to be about, is coming out hard and heavy.
I just don't think it's going to work for her. I think the process will work of having, younger people in. I think, that will work. But I don't think that I think she's the pilot program being her is going to fail.
Right.
But I think ultimately, we're going to start seeing younger people being in the House. At the very least.
The funny thing is all of this stuff that he was talking about and that is being mentioned, that is not the most outrageous thing that she's got in the Green New Deal. This is the one that gets me more than any of it. Is when it says that one of the plans is to upgrade all existing buildings in the United States. All existing buildings in the United. How in the fuck do you honestly believe that even in America we could update all existing fucking buildings to make them more water and energy efficient?
All we gotta do is take all the money from the rich people and put it on there.
You can't reasonably update all the buildings in the most northern town of Montana.
Yeah.
Forget New York City, L.A., Chicago, D.C. Just staggeringly. And again, you're going to ask people who can barely afford their mortgages that you're crying that they're so poor, you're going to require them to do this major overhaul, which is going to probably end up pushing them out in the streets that they can't afford. So you're worried about the poor people, but your solution is to make more poor people.
Right. And
it sounds like a socialist agenda. Shocking.
That's what socialism does. Yeah. Makes everyone poor.
And surprisingly enough, this is the kind of government overreach. This is the level that I see will get Americans incited against it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
This is the kind of thing that you say when you want people to have a knee-jerk reaction and say, "Fuck that! I want smaller government." Right. That's the kind of bullshit you throw out there. We want to take every facet of your fucking life and control it so that we save the planet. Get on board.
save the planet. While turning us into current day Venezuela.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what she wants.
Right.
However, she and her, overlords, they will be all fine in their ivory tower.
Yeah, naturally.
Because it won't be on their that won't be her that has to pay for any of it. It'll be all of ours.
Well, I have trouble with this mindset. Like, I get global warming. I understand climate change. I also understand that some of the science is there and some of the science that talks about how these are normal cycles for this planet to go through to a certain extent. But this fucking Americentric idea that we carrying what? Less than 1%. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people, and we have 350 million in our country. We are a small percentage of the world's population. How in the fuck do you want to sit and say that we are the primary source?
Well,
So
is that
much
what's being
that
said?
we have to go through these
That's
extremes.
what she's saying.
Right. She
Yeah,
says
well,
that we are one of the biggest contributors to climate change, global warming. That's why we need to go to these extreme measures. But I'm like,
Because I figured it was just like we should be the leaders in having other countries do the same thing.
well,
I think that's kind of where they're more
but there's-
going.
But there's a
what they're
lot
more
of
going for.
preaching that America itself is largely responsible for a lot of this because we are the land of excess. We have such a large carbon footprint. What we do, and I think they also go ahead and incorporate any fingers we have out in the world. So when you talk about oil coming from the Middle East, that's our fault for everything that goes on there because we use oil from the
And to
Middle
be fair,
East.
though, if you've grown up in New York, I think you would agree. You might have that perspective at least. That that America is the leading cause or whatever, because that's all you see around you is pollution, and all
Well,
these
in New York,
emissions and all that.
to be in New York City.
New York City, yeah.
Where I am in New York, there's plenty of farm.
I'm pretty
In
sure
the
I
rest
said
of
New
the
York.
state,
I'm
we
pretty
got
sure I
plenty
said
of
New York.
farmland, plenty of chair.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got the,
You got
I
a
mean,
lot of
it's-
that oxygen stuff, don't you?
We got lots of gorgeous stuff up here in the state, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
the backwards ones, not the
Right? I mean,
Yeah,
to be
and I'm
honest,
fairly sure I said New York City.
well,
fairly sure. I
Well,
did.
when you
Pretty.
say New York, everyone forgets that there's this.
Then there's the rest of it.
There's a
Right.
huge state
Yeah.
attached to the city.
Right.
It's they don't.
I went up to Lake George before. It was beautiful up there.
I hope you took a picture.
Absolutely.
Probably.
But you know what? I can honestly say that yes, we've had some times in this country, like if you think about like L.A. back in the in the 70s, 80s when they were small issues. But you go to fucking China. You go, go to some of these
China,
heavily
it's
industrialized Asian
awful.
areas. Most of the population is walking around with fucking masks on their face because the pollution levels are so high that they have major warnings for the day to go out about going outside. That's not telling me that it's America that's a big issue. I mean, we've done a lot in this country
China
as far as the
and
amount of
India are
pollution
the
we produce.
China and India are the worst
Yes.
contributors to this. And if
Yeah.
we do all this shit, they're just going to crank it up. Okay, if we get rid of planes, what you think that means that Iraq, Iran, any of our enemies? Oh, well, we'll just get rid of ours too. No, it's just gonna turn into like a civilization Sid Meier game where your opponent has airplanes and you're sitting there with bows and arrows. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it's going to turn
Why
into.
won't my shield stop the bomb?
Yeah. So as if we wouldn't be broke enough, we're just asking to be like, all right, just come in, just pillage
Yeah.
us.
The only reason I could imagine that I would agree with stopping using planes is if we were shutting down the fucking borders. No planes in or out, no traffic in or out. Let's lock it down.
What we would still
see, I want to
we would
leave.
still
That's
need
not.
some kind of an
I wanna go to
air
Europe.
force to keep people from flying over. You know, like,
Yeah.
it'd be like, you know, there was a comedian that said this once about it was Robin Williams when he said about, you know, the British not, you know, the police not having guns. It'd be like, stop, or I'll say stop again.
Yeah.
Because they have no weapons, and that'd be
Right.
like, excuse me, this is a no-fly zone. Get out of here.
Hey,
Stop it.
you can't do
No,
that.
I'm serious.
We'll cover it with the
Yeah.
Space Force. Space Force will take care of that.
Just shoot them down with a satellite.
Space Force.
Leave it to Space
But
Force.
It just shows it's like, okay, it's great you have ideas, but you know what this is talking about 10-year-old.
Yeah,
This
I mean,
is the
her
kind of
ideas
thing
belong
she
on the
would have.
refrigerator, not in
This
the house.
this is the ideas, and her defense is, well, at least I'm trying something. You're trying what? I mean, I could say, okay, you know how we could solve this? We all learn how to fly.
Right?
Okay,
Make wings
Yeah.
available for everybody.
There is as much chance of us learning how to fly than there is of this entire thing happening. Just because I say something does not mean I'm trying. No, you need to try something that's irrational and reasonable. Get rid of all cows. Get rid of all planes. Refit everything. Well, how about we just go all American? You know what would be easier?
Yeah.
Everyone just go out and shoot themselves in the head.
Right.
Well, no, 'cause we have to have guns for that, though. That's not possible.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because that reminds me of reminded me of something that I told John that I wanted to ask during the show. So we'll end on this final question. This is a philosophically moral question that I'm going to put out there to you, and those of you in the listening audience, please give your responses as well. I posed this to John, and I was surprised he had a very quick, easy answer for me. All right, here's the scenario, Stan.
Okay.
We have reached a dystopian future in which we have decided as a society, for the sake of resource consumption and for the overpopulation of our society, that we need to determine an age at which citizens will self-euthanize themselves to diminish the population, save resources. We have decided to do this as a society, so the question to you is this: what is your vote for the age at which one would self-euthanize to help save society?
Oh, there's no options. I just have to come up
No,
with an
you
age?
need to right. You get to pick an age now, because of course we're a democracy, so everyone will vote, and we'll just take the ages from there.
65.
All right. John's answer was 75.
Yeah.
So why 65?
Well, when you're retirement age, might just retire.
Just retire completely.
Just retire.
Okay.
You've worked. You've earned your time. Just retire completely. I mean,
Midget says 110.
It's 110.
to me, another point of that is you could then justify for eliminating security completely, because then, well, if there's no retirement, then why do you need to take this extra money from me throughout all my working years so I can use that money throughout all of my my years, when as much as they like to can relax. My parents are in their 70s, okay? They ain't relaxing, okay? They're in pain every day, okay? You see these things on TV where they're like, "Oh, we're out playing golf." That's not normal, all right? So, I mean, granted, I wasn't going to say 50 because I'm like, that means
Right.
But to me, 65 or 66, whatever. To me, retire. Once you retire,
but now
just take that long walk into the sunset.
Now this does throw an interesting, another question to mind. Isn't that kind of like telling everybody you're just going to work till you die and you're never going to have any of your life for yourself? except the occasional vacation.
Well,
Because retirement is kind of that thing, right, where you get to enjoy a little bit of more life.
Well, that's part of the reason why I said
Ideally-
75 as well, because at least once you retire, you know, you get 10 years to, you know, kick around the country if you want or whatever you want to do, and, you know, say goodbye.
Ideally, then if I mean, think about it, the money that you put into Social Security and Social Security taxes over the years, perhaps that means you can instead, quote unquote, retire from work a little earlier because you've got probably a substantial more amount of money to use that while you are, you know, and then maybe people will actually take. I know myself, like when I have vacations, I don't do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I never do. You know, I understand your point because it's like, well, yeah, they're supposed to be the golden years, but I mean, that would be my thing. Once you're
going to miss out on all those good get off
Good
my lawn
what?
years, right?
good, I already have those.
Yeah, I'm already there. I'm already.
Well, I was trying
know,
to hope
but
nobody
like-
was going to bring that point up.
You know, I mean, like for example, complex I live in. I mean, there's people that are, you know, in their 70s, and they're. I mean, this is their golden age. No, they're not.
Now, I'm going to put.
They're some of them are just waiting to go. You know what I mean?
I will put it out there down here in Florida, not too far from where we're at. We have a place called the Villages, and it is a retirement town.
Communities,
It is a community town. It's grown
It's
into
a
a
town.
pretty decent sized
Big,
town, and it's a retirement town. And one of the highest rates of sexually transmitted diseases in the state,
really?
sometimes
It's
in the
true,
country.
yeah.
Yes, because apparently folks are getting it on.
And they don't care anymore.
Now, I understand why you would see it differently, because I mean, the premise is most people once they retire, they go to Florida.
Right.
Most people when they retire aren't coming to upstate New York.
Probably
Right.
not often.
You know, so
For the
usually the
they're
ones
coming-
that are here, at least the ones that I see, it's because they have to be here.
Right.
You know, but I think the other thing, I mean, whatever age we choose, I think people knowing that there would be a definitive finish line, I think that would lead them to work harder when they have the youth on their side, so that they could then at 55 retire and take some years, or if, you know, like you said, 75. I think knowing that there would be, I think that would mean they would push harder, you know, probably save more.
Yeah.
Or they could be like me, where I'm like, I save enough, but me, I honestly, for the most part, I live for today, because I can walk out and you know, a bus could sideswipe me, and
Oh yeah.
it's like, it's great. I put all this money in retirement, and I honestly, like, brief story. I look at my father. He has 401ks for a bunch of, like, he's got more money, but he's had so many leg and back problems. He's essentially homebound. So it's like,
Yeah.
you've got all this money and you can't leave your couch.
You can pay for a Netflix subscription, you know.
And so it's like,
That's what he's doing, yeah.
What did all this do for you, Dad? Not a damn thing, because you're sitting there, Scrooge McDuck, with your piles of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you want to go. You
So-
know what? Why don't you just let me go take care of that for you?
I mean, that definitely kind of leads to part of my worldview, because I know he could have a very healthy retirement, but I mean, he's literally
Not
a
healthy.
walker. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, okay, you did great saving, and what does it get you?
Exactly.
It gets you a couch and a remote control with the TV, and plenty of money. But okay,
Just remember,
Yeah.
that dystopian future is brought to you by anyone who kills AOC's Green New Deal.
That's right.
that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
see, in my world, if we get to 65, that's 3 more years past AOC says you and I are going to live anyway. So
Oh, it's true.
I've just given us 3 extra years.
There you go.
It's true.
I
Yeah. It's pretty optimistic of you, Stan.
I mean, granted,
Yeah.
he gave us, 12 extra years, but I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live in the Mad Max wasteland that she thinks we're heading for in 12 years.
Hey,
Yeah.
there'll be room for witch doctors and the tribal elders. Hey, so anyway, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Hey, Stan, I
Before
have to
we
tell
do
you.
that, though.
Oh no,
Before we do that.
don't,
boy.
Oh, yeah.
John, don't do
No,
it.
What's
no.
he going to do?
I
We
don't
have a
know.
big announcement to make. Big announcement.
How big? Is
Pretty
it
big.
long
About-
or girthy?
It's pretty
the
long.
big
I think.
announcement is his beard has grown a tenth
It's
of an
grown.
inch during
That's
this
right.
podcast.
See? I found this one really long hair. No.
See, you have one hair grew out.
That's right. No. On April 19th, we are doing a 12-hour-long stream for St. Jude's Hospital. We're doing it from noon to midnight Eastern time,
It's like
And
that's,
so,
that's almost 12 hours.
almost 12 hours. So we're going to go right up into 420, and we're going to have a couple people on. We're going to have our gun debate with Robert and Jay Edgar, with Stephen Ignoramus moderating.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm working on getting some more guests on, so we're going to do that. And yeah, we'll have some more announcements over the next couple of weeks.
Stan, you're welcome to come by if you're not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll take random drop-ins. We'll take scheduled drop-ins. Hell, we'll just take toilet bowl drop-ins if that's the best we can get. But by
That's
God,
right.
we're going to
Yeah,
have
no, it's going to be a good
show.
time, though. Yeah, it'll be a great time.
So, save us some Easter eggs. You get prepared for that. Will Easter be before or after that? I don't know the
I have
dates.
no idea.
John, get on that. We need to make sure we're not stepping on any Easter bunnies. Anyway, so we're going to wrap this thing up. Stan, I have to tell you, up until just recently, I had no idea who you were, but I'm glad I know who you are now. It was very nice being able to talk to you, get inside your
Yeah,
head,
definitely.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
hear that there's some more elderly lunacy out there besides myself. I'm a big fan of that. Remember, Soylent Green is a thing, and it's coming.
Okay.
I like it. That man knows
It's
what I'm talking
people.
about. It's people.
It is people.
It's people.
Oh, God. But anyway, so if you like what you're hearing, hit the like button. And if you haven't yet already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got lots of things coming. We're going to be back here on Monday night for our Shooting the Shit episode at 9 o'clock. And then, of course, back again next Friday at 8:30, where we'll have more mundane things to talk about. That usually just gets us ranting and raving about nothing in particular. John, they can find us somewhere. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. They can find us in two places now. Find us on Twitter at the Gen Gap P, where I usually am, and you can join our Discord server with the link below. Just click it. It's there.
And we have access to Stan's YouTube channel and Twitter down below as
That is
well, so
true,
please
too.
click on those. So Stan, with all due courtesy, if you would like, give yourself a shameless plug and send us out how you'd like. Make sure people know where they can find you.
Shameless plug. I'd say the easiest way to find my is to go to my Twitter, because my YouTube channel is named Stan. So that's going to be a little difficult to find. But I am at Konopka, Konoruck, on the Twitter machine. I do appreciate you guys having me on. Equally, Rob, I appreciate, again, like you said, having someone of my sophistication world experience to speak to.
Nice.
Because most of the time when I'm ranting about stuff, people are like, what? 3 television stations? What are you talking about? No remote controls or dial? What are you talking about on a television, you lunatic? No, but I appreciate you having me on. It was
Absolutely.
I liked great interaction. It was definitely a good time, and yeah, keep it. Obviously we'll be in touch, and pencil me in for the 19th. I'd be honored to be on that stream with y'all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do that.
Beautiful. All right, folks, we're going to be out of here. John, have a good night. Stan, have a good night. And folks, take it easy out there.
Yep.
Peace.
See you guys.